Ma'am, step away from the vehicle now.
This is my car. I'm loading my groceries. What's the problem?
We got a call. Suspicious person near luxury vehicles. ID, step back.
Suspicious for what? The registration's inside.
It was 3:18 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. The parking lot shimmered under the California sun heat rising off the asphalt in soft waves. Shopping carts rattled in the distance. Engines started and stopped. The ordinary noise of people going about their weekend. She stood behind a black luxury sedan, lifting shopping bags from the cart and placing them carefully into the trunk. Black woman. Early 50s. Calm movements. No rush. Dressed simply, tailored slacks, flat shoes, a neutral blouse. Nothing flashy. Nothing that announced authority. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." The voice came from behind her, sharp enough to cut through the noise. She froze for half a second, then turned slowly. A uniformed police officer stood a few feet away, one hand resting on his duty belt, the other hovering near his radio. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked. "We received a call about a suspicious person attempting to access vehicles in this lot." Suspicious. She glanced at the open trunk, at the bags bearing store logos, at the key fob still in her hand. "This is my car," she said evenly. "I'm loading my purchases." The officer's eyes moved over her, lingering, measuring. He didn't look at the trunk. He didn't look at the key. "I need you to provide identification and step away from the vehicle." She felt it then. The shift. The familiar tightening in the chest that came when logic stopped mattering. "On what grounds?" she asked. "I haven't committed a crime." The officer's jaw set. "Ma'am, I'm conducting an investigation. Failure to comply will escalate the situation." Around them, movement slowed. A man walking past stopped and pretended to check his phone. A woman near a parked SUV raised her camera slightly. The air felt heavier. She took a breath. "Officer, I am the registered owner of this vehicle. The registration is inside. I have the keys. What exactly are you suspecting me of?" The officer reached for his radio. Backup requested. Possible non-compliant subject. Non-compliant for asking questions. Sirens weren't audible yet, but the word backup changed everything. The space between them felt smaller, more dangerous. She straightened her posture. "You are making a serious mistake." The officer didn't respond. He just repeated the command. "Step away from the vehicle, now." And in that moment, in a public parking lot filled with witnesses, a woman loading her own car was treated as if she did not belong anywhere near it. Her name was Judge Evelyn Carter, but no one in that parking lot knew that yet. To them, she was just another black woman standing next to an expensive car in a space that quietly questioned her right to be there. Evelyn Carter grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, in a neighborhood where rules were learned early and consequences came fast. Her father was a postal worker who believed discipline was protection. Her mother taught history at a public high school and insisted her daughter understand not just the law, but why it existed. Dinner conversations were about court cases, civil rights, and the thin line between authority and abuse. Evelyn learned to speak carefully, to observe longer than she reacted, to prepare twice as much for half the recognition. She carried those habits through college, through law school, through clerkships where she was often the only black woman in the room. She graduated with honors not because she chased praise, but because failure was never an option she could afford. She spent her early career prosecuting complex federal cases, public corruption, organized crime, civil rights violations. She built a reputation for being precise, methodical, and impossible to intimidate. Attorneys learned quickly that she did not bluff and did not miss details. Her courtroom demeanor was calm but unyielding. At 47, Evelyn Carter was appointed to the United States District Court. The confirmation process was brutal. Every decision she had ever made was dissected, every opinion scrutinized. When the appointment was finalized, she became one of the few black women to hold that position in her district. She did not celebrate publicly. She went back to work. She had ruled against police departments. She had denied qualified immunity claims. She had written opinions that cited the Fourth Amendment with surgical clarity. Her decisions had cost cities millions and ended careers built on misconduct. She understood power. She understood what happened when it went unchecked. The officer who confronted her that afternoon understood none of this. Officer Ryan Holt had been with the department for 8 years. His personnel file showed competence but also patterns. Disproportionate stops involving black residents. Multiple complaints for aggressive questioning. None sustained. Each dismissed for lack of evidence or officer discretion. Holt believed in control. in asserting authority early. His training reinforced the idea that hesitation was dangerous and compliance was safety. He trusted his instincts, especially when they told him something felt off. The call that brought him to the parking lot was vague. Suspicious person near luxury vehicles. Caller uncomfortable. No crime reported. No attempted theft described. But Holt had already filled in the blanks before he arrived. Standing there watching Evelyn load her car, he saw a confirmation of his assumption, not a contradiction of it. Every calm response felt defiant. Every question felt like a challenge. Backing down now would mean admitting he was wrong in front of witnesses. Two lives shaped by law were moving toward collision. One built on interpreting it, the other on enforcing it. Neither planned for this encounter, but only one of them understood exactly how dangerous it could become. And as Evelyn Carter stood in that parking lot surrounded by strangers and suspicion, the distance between who she was and how she was being treated could not have been wider. The parking lot felt smaller now. What had been an open, sunlit space moments earlier tightened with attention and unease. Evelyn stood beside her car trunk, still open shopping bags frozen mid-task, her hands deliberately visible. Officer Holt took a step closer. Not enough to touch her. Close enough to assert presence. His radio crackled softly at his shoulder. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm going to need you to stop what you're doing and remain right here." "I am right here," Evelyn replied. "I'm not leaving. I'm asking you to explain what crime you believe I'm committing." Holt didn't answer the question. He glanced around the lot instead. A man had stopped near a pickup truck, phone raised slightly recording. Two women near the store entrance whispered to each other, eyes fixed on the scene. Evelyn reached into her hand and raised the key fob again. She pressed the lock button. The car responded instantly. Lights flashed. Doors locked with a sharp click. Then she unlocked it again. "This is my vehicle," she said. "Registered to me. You can verify that." Holt frowned. "That only proves you have access." "Access is ownership when the registration matches," she replied calmly. Her tone was controlled. Not confrontational, not submissive. That balance unsettled him. He lifted his radio. "Dispatch, run the plate. And send another unit." "Another unit." The word rippled through the small crowd. Someone muttered, "For what?" Another voice said, "She didn't do anything." Evelyn felt the shift immediately. Backup meant the encounter had crossed from verification to defense, from facts to ego. "Officer," she said, "I am cooperating. I am answering your questions. I have shown you proof. Calling backup is unnecessary." Holt met her eyes. "Ma'am, your attitude is escalating the situation." Her lips pressed together for a brief moment. "Asking for legal justification is not escalation." A man near the curb spoke up louder this time. "She's just loading her car." Holt turned sharply. "Sir, this doesn't concern you." "It concerns everyone when you treat people like this," the man replied. Phones were fully out now. No one pretended otherwise. The air buzzed with quiet outrage. Evelyn understood exactly what was happening. Holt had committed publicly. Each witness made retreat harder. Each question she asked challenged his authority in front of strangers. She lowered her voice. "Officer, I am warning you that you are exceeding your legal authority." Holt's jaw tightened. He took another step forward. "Ma'am, until backup arrives, you are not free to leave." "Am I being detained?" Evelyn asked. "Yes." "On what grounds?" "Suspicious activity pending investigation." The phrase meant nothing and everything at once. Around them, disbelief spread openly now. Heads shook. Someone whispered, "This is wrong." Evelyn felt the familiar stillness settle over her. The calm that came when a situation turned dangerous, but clarity sharpened. This was no longer about shopping. It was no longer about a parking lot. It was about power being exercised because it could be, and witnesses watching to see how far it would go. The moment did not explode. It narrowed. Officer Holt shifted his stance. His shoulders squared. His hand moved from the radio to the cuffs on his belt, not yet raised, but unmistakably present. The space around Evelyn felt suddenly controlled, measured in steps and angles. "Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back." The words landed flat, almost routine. That was what made them dangerous. Evelyn did not move immediately. She looked past him at the open trunk of her car, at the shopping bag still untouched, at the people watching, phones held steady faces tight with disbelief. "Officer," she said, "I have not resisted you. I have not attempted to leave. I have not committed a crime." Holt's voice hardened. "Turn around, now." A sharp inhale rippled through the crowd. Someone said, "Oh my God." Another voice followed. "You can't be serious." Evelyn turned slowly. Every movement deliberate. Every second documented. She placed her hands behind her back exactly as instructed. The metal closed around her wrists. The sound of the cuffs echoed across the parking lot louder than the engines, louder than the voices. A clean mechanical click. Final. Unforgiving. The pressure came immediately. Tight. Purposeful. Her skin compressed, her pulse trapped. She did not flinch. Holt guided her a step away from the car. Not violent. Not gentle. Controlled. The kind of force designed to look justified on camera. She stood there handcuffed beside her own vehicle. A woman in the crowd raised her voice. "This is wrong. She didn't do anything." Another person shouted, "You're arresting her for shopping." Holt ignored them. His focus narrowed to procedure, to commands, to maintaining authority now that the line had been crossed. Evelyn felt the heat of the asphalt through her shoes. She felt the weight of the cuffs. She felt something else, too. Clarity. This was no longer an inconvenience. It was a constitutional violation unfolding in real time. She was placed in the back of the patrol car. The plastic seat was hard-curved, designed to discourage comfort. The door closed with a hollow thud that cut off the noise of the crowd. Inside the car, it smelled faintly of disinfectant and stale air. Sunlight filtered through the tinted window, flashing red and blue as another unit pulled in. Holt stood outside the car for a moment longer than necessary. He stared at the gathering crowd, at the phones, at the witnesses. His jaw tightened. Backup arrived. Another officer stepped out, took in the scene, then paused. A flicker of doubt crossed his face, too brief to stop anything long enough to register. Evelyn sat upright in the back seat, hands cuffed, spine straight, breathing steady. Her mind moved faster than the situation around her. Fourth Amendment? Probable cause? Unlawful detention? False arrest? Evidence preservation. The injustice was not chaotic. It was procedural, and it was happening in broad daylight. The patrol car stopped behind the station just after 3:46 p.m. The engine idled for a moment before shutting off, as if even the vehicle hesitated to end what had already gone too far. Evelyn sat upright in the back seat, hands still cuffed in front of her, now wrists marked with deep red impressions. The air inside the car was stale. The silence was heavy. Officer Holt stood outside, speaking quietly into his radio, his tone no longer confident, just controlled enough to mask uncertainty. Inside the station, the mood shifted almost immediately. A desk sergeant looked up as Holt walked in with Evelyn beside him. The cuffs were visible. The posture was wrong. The calm on her face did not match the charge that had not yet been spoken. "What do we have?" the sergeant asked. "Suspicious activity turned detention," Holt replied. "Possible vehicle interference." The sergeant's eyes moved to Evelyn, to her clothing, to the way she stood, straight, composed, not confused, not fearful. "Ma'am, can I have your name?" the sergeant asked. Evelyn met his eyes. "Judge Evelyn Carter." The words did not land all at once. They settled slowly like dust after something breaks. The sergeant blinked. "Excuse me. United States District Court," Evelyn said evenly. "Central District of California." The room went quiet. A lieutenant stepped out of an adjacent office drawn by the pause. He took in the scene in seconds. The cuffs, the badge numbers, the name. "Judge Carter?" he said, his voice changing mid-sentence. "Why are you in handcuffs?" Evelyn did not raise her voice. "I was detained and arrested in a parking lot while loading my own vehicle. I asked for the legal basis. None was provided." The lieutenant turned slowly toward Holt. "Did you verify her identity?" Holt hesitated. "I believe the credentials could be false." The lieutenant's jaw tightened. "Did you verify?" No answer. The lieutenant took a breath, deep and deliberate. "Remove the restraints. Now." The cuffs came off with a sharp metallic sound that echoed louder than before. Evelyn flexed her wrists once. She did not hide the marks. "I want everything documented," she said. "Body camera footage, radio traffic, the initial call, all reports. Nothing altered." "Yes, ma'am," the lieutenant replied. The sergeant was already typing, eyes darting between the screen and Evelyn, as the system confirmed what should never have been doubted. Federal judicial credentials. Active appointment. No ambiguity. Holt stood frozen. The confidence he had carried into the parking lot was gone, replaced by something closer to dread. He understood it now. The scale. The permanence. Judge Carter had sentenced officers like him. She had written opinions that dismantled defenses built on qualified immunity. She knew exactly what this meant. The lieutenant spoke quietly. "Judge Carter, on behalf of the department, I apologize." Evelyn nodded once. This is not about apologies. The power in the room had shifted completely. Not because of volume, not because of anger. Because truth had arrived with documentation. What happened in that parking lot was no longer a misunderstanding. It was now a verified record. The video appeared online before the evening news cycle ended. It showed Evelyn Carter standing beside her car, calm, questioning, compliant. It showed the cuffs closing. It showed the crowd reacting in disbelief. No edits, no commentary, just facts unfolding in real time. By nightfall, it had spread far beyond the city. Millions of views, tens of thousands of comments. The same words repeated over and over. She was loading her own car. Evelyn did not speak publicly. She did not need to. Her attorneys filed the complaint within days. Unlawful detention, false arrest, violation of constitutional rights, excessive use of authority. Each allegation supported by video, audio timestamps, and witness statements. The city responded with a statement first, then another, carefully worded, expressing concern, promising review, no admission of wrongdoing. Inside City Hall, the tone was different. Internal Affairs pulled Officer Holt's file. The pattern was no longer dismissible. Disproportionate stops, escalation without cause. Complaints that had been closed individually now formed a line. Body camera footage contradicted his report. Radio traffic showed no legal basis articulated before detention. Backup arrived without clarification. The evidence was complete. Holt was placed on administrative leave within a week. 2 weeks later, he was terminated. 8 years on the force ended without ceremony. No press conference, no defense. The city moved quickly after that, faster than usual. Negotiations began quietly. Evelyn's legal team made their position clear. This was not symbolic. This was systemic. And the documentation was undeniable. The settlement was finalized without trial. $3.6 million. No confidentiality clause preventing disclosure. The amount made headlines on its own. City pays $3.6 million after judge wrongfully detained. The number sparked debate. Some called it excessive. Others called it overdue. Most understood the truth. The money was not punishment, it was acknowledgement. Evelyn directed a portion of the settlement towards civil rights organizations and judicial education initiatives focused on unlawful stops and bias in policing. She declined interviews, declined commentary, declined invitations to become a talking point. When she finally issued a written statement, it was brief. This was not about my position. It was about the law being ignored in plain sight. The department announced new training requirements, revised detention protocols, mandatory bias education, policies rewritten. None of it erased the footage. Officer Holt's name faded from public view. His badge number appeared once more in termination records. Then nothing. Evelyn returned to the bench. She presided over cases with the same calm authority as before. But now, when defendants stood before her, handcuffed and silent, she carried something additional. Not anger, not bitterness, precision sharpened by experience. Justice had not been loud. It had been exact. And this time, it had been enforced. What happened to Evelyn Carter was not a lapse in judgment. It was the predictable result of authority acting on assumption instead of law. From a constitutional perspective, the violation is clear. Law enforcement officers may not detain or arrest an individual without probable cause supported by specific articulable facts. Loading shopping bags into a vehicle is not criminal behavior. Possessing a key fob is not suspicious. A vague call expressing discomfort does not meet the legal threshold required to restrict someone's freedom. The decision to handcuff escalated the violation further. Restraints are not neutral tools. They are a declaration of control justified only when there is an immediate threat risk of flight or active resistance. None existed in this encounter. The use of handcuffs transformed an unlawful stop into a false arrest. But the deeper lesson is not written only in statutes. Bias operates quietly. It disguises itself as caution, as intuition, as professionalism. It fills the absence of evidence with expectation and then defends those expectations as common sense. In this case, the expectation was simple and devastating. A black woman with a luxury car must explain herself. Judge Carter did everything the system claims to reward. She was calm. She was respectful. She asked lawful questions. She complied without surrendering her dignity. She posed no threat. And still she was handcuffed. That reality matters because it exposes a dangerous myth. That composure prevents harm. That credentials protect against mistreatment. That authority recognizes itself when it is present. It does not. So what should viewers learn? First, understand your rights. You have the right to ask why you are being detained. You have the right to know whether you are free to leave. You have the right to remain silent beyond providing identification when required by law. Second, document whenever legally possible. Video preserves truth when memory is challenged. Witnesses protect facts when narratives shift. Documentation changes outcomes. Third, recognize escalation early. When questions become commands, when backup is called without explanation, when tone hardens without cause, the situation has moved from inquiry to control. At that point, safety may depend on patience, not persuasion. Finally, understand the cost of misconduct. The $3.6 million settlement did not come from an abstract system. It came from public funds, from taxpayers, from a community paying for authority misused. Judge Evelyn Carter did not need to prove her worth. She needed the law to be followed. Her case ended with accountability because the evidence was undeniable. Many do not. The question is not whether this was wrong. That has already been established. The question is how many similar encounters never reach a courtroom, and how long society is willing to keep paying for silence.